Hey there guys, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke. I've been sitting on this game for nearly like a few years at least, but with the ultimate version being released, I figured now is a good time as ever to talk about this game, and that game is Warriors Orochi 3. And I'll go ahead and say the footage that I'll be showing, and this is from Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate because I deleted the original off of my PS3 hard drive because, come on. You don't need two of the same game, especially with Ultimate being the better version, though I will be talking about the original as well as what I understand of Warriors Orochi 3 Hyper, the version on Wii U. I haven't actually played that one because I don't have a Wii U, but I have heard some things about it. But again, the footage I'm going to be using is Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate for the PS3. But to start off with, it's the general concept, you know, is just with the Samurai Warriors and Dynasty Warriors characters coming together, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about this game series in particular, the Warriors of Orochi series, that is, that this is the one game where they kind of bring the two big franchises together, and they're starting to kind of bring in the other franchises as well, like with Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, now that Tecmo and Koei are now one company, so they have more license to bring some of those characters in, and it's kind of cool because it makes it more of like a Koei Warriors kind of thing as opposed to just a Warriors of Orochi kind of thing. And they even add in, and I know in Ultimate they add in Sturk from Altair Ruronia, I think it's Ruronua or something, I believe it's called. But the one thing that makes this game unique is that it has Sophitia from Soul Calibur in the Ultimate version. She wasn't present in any other version. I think Hyper introduced a few original characters as well as Rachel from Ninja Gaiden. But Ultimate added in Kasumi from Dead or Alive and a few other original characters, and Sturk from Altair Ruronoa and Sophitia from Soul Calibur, which I think it's kind of cool that they have Sophitia in this game because it makes me think about, like, what if Namco hired Koei to make a Soul Calibur Dynasty Warriors game? That'd be really cool, and I feel like it'd be a good way to show off more of the story elements of Soul Calibur. It'd be actually very interesting, and of course they've already done Hyrule Warriors, and they're doing a Dragon Quest game, which is gonna be friggin' awesome. So it's kind of cool to see them coming in and sort of making the Dynasty Warriors games that everyone wants with the franchise, because some people have tried, but it doesn't work out too well, like a certain Tales game. But I'm getting off track. The main premise of the story, that is, of this game, general Warriors of Orochi stuff, Orochi is back, and Daji and her friend, I don't remember her fucking name. I mainly remember Daji because I kind of don't like her. At the same time, I kind of do. It's weird. And they're trying to bring back Orochi, and this Hydra is attacked, and Hanbei, Machao, and Sumajao are your three starting characters, and you're trying to rebuild your forces and get stronger so you can fight the Hydra. And you go to like these different levels, the Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors world. I don't think they're specifically taken from specific games, at least not at first. I think they are taken from at least earlier games where they can kind of get away of reusing material a little bit. But as far as I can tell, like, the levels and are for the most part original. I mean, obviously they have to be reusing assets. This entire game is just reused assets as far as characters and whatnot go. But that's just the way that goes. The versions of the characters they're using are from Dynasty Warriors 7 and Samurai Warriors 3, so the more updated versions of the characters. I know with Dynasty Warriors 6 in particular, there are a lot of characters who did not play the way they were originally expected to, like Xiahou Duan, my favorite character, used like the giant pole mace thing, which now Pong Da uses, or Pong De, or however you say his name. I actually don't mind that weapon, but And he fights with his big scimitar, his Podao, which is nice. And for the with Dynasty Warriors 7, since they had the system where characters could use any weapon, they've kind of switched it to where they just use their main weapon. And I think for certain characters, they've upped their style of it. Like I know another one of my favorite characters. This is actually something I noticed in this game. I didn't notice it in the original. With Sun Quan, one of my favorite characters, he played a little differently, in my opinion, a little bit better. Like the way he fought, it was still the standard Chinese sword style, but it had like a Sun Quan flair to it, and I kind of like that. And in place of the weapon switching attack, you get like just this. I think a guard break attack is what it's supposed to be, and of course all the Dynasty Warriors characters get their Muso attacks and whatnot. As far as they don't use like any of like the Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires style, so Sumashur still has his stupid rapier style that's just a copy of the rapier style that everyone else has, and Xiahou Ba, he doesn't use the rocket lance, he still has like the big sword. So they don't use like all of the new stuff, which it's kind of funny that because Zhu Shu, the exclusive character from Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires, makes an appearance. So you would think that they would try to upgrade the characters a little bit, which I personally think they should have, especially if this is intended to be the last one of the last version of this game. I know that when the English version came out of this game, because the Japanese version came out a while ago on PS3, but they made one for PS4 and Xbox One, and that version is also out, I believe, in English, but the version I got is PS3, so I don't know, maybe for the PS4 version they upped it a little bit, because that would be technically the most updated version. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tecmo Koei of America were working on 2 different builds for this version, so someone do a rain check with that. I don't know, because I don't have a PS4. I'd like one, but I don't have one yet, so I can't really say for sure. And I imagine Hyper would also, because Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires came out after Hyper. Hyper was like a pretty early title for the Wii U, but you know. Unfortunately, with a big cast like this, the game is voiced in Japanese. I think this was one of the first Warriors game where they started doing the Japanese voices primarily, and because of that, on the PlayStation version at least, it was digital only. With the Xbox 360 version of the original, it was a physical copy, and I was tempted to get the Xbox version because I wanted the physical copy. At this point, I don't really care because, you know, game's a game, and you know, I recognize that digital games, it's a pretty easy way to release your game. If you can't afford to do a physical release, you can still release it digitally, and it's just on the market, just regardless. Like, you don't have to like set up deals or like set up things with like certain retailers. It's just on like the main thing. And of course, Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate was also on PSN, and it was weird when I went to buy. They tried to bundle the original, which I found kind of weird. And I don't really like that because I already bought the original. I don't know, maybe it's a rebranding or something, because it came bundled with random DLC, I think. And one of the things they mentioned was that if you had save data from Warriors Orochi 3, the original, you could import it into Ultimate, and you could like start in from the new stuff, which I did because I did not want to replay everything. It was a pain to unlock like a lot of the characters. Like for this game, the main thing I was looking forward to is being able to play as all my favorite characters: Xiahou Duwen, Sun Quan, Lu Xun, Cao Cao, Yukimura Sanada, Nobunaga Oda, Munashige Tachibana, Yoshitsune Minamoto, Sophidia, fucking Goku. No, well, technically, because Sun Wukong is in this, basically Goku. But you had to like do like these stupid like character-specific missions where you had to like get up a character's affinity with these characters' affinity with each other, and so you had to play as them. And what I would do is I would just like replay like specific missions. Like there's this one where like it's Jongha and Ketsui Shiba, I think his name is Shibana. One of the characters from Samurai Warriors 2 that actually made it into Warriors Orochi 3, because I know for some characters they were not in the latest version of their respective series, but in this one they brought them back, which is kind of cool. Like Zwochi or the old man with like the white beard and like the weird like guile-like haircut. That's that. But they did it was kind of, I mean, it was a bit of a pain because it was late game and I didn't think to do them. Of course, when I started playing Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, like I did like the first like regular mission, and it brought up like so many freaking random like non-main storyline quests. I think a lot of them were, some of them I could tell were specific to Ultimate, because I know Shushu, the character from Seven Empires, was exclusive to the Ultimate version, so I know that one. But they just kind of gave them to you. Like, he just showed them, like, oh, by the way, he's part of your team now. I was like, oh, gee, thanks. I didn't have to do any like specific thing. I know he's sort of like and as far as Chinese Romance of the Three Kingdoms history goes, he's not really that important, but from what I've gathered, I haven't played enough of Dynasty Warriors 8 to really know for sure. But like, there was all these different ones, like to unlock Rachel and Kasumi and Shinong, who's a character who I thought I got already, but then it's like, oh no, you didn't have him, so here you go in this one mission. Oh gee, thanks. I'm glad I was able to get that character that I thought I had. You know, thanks for letting me know and affirming that I don't have all the characters after I worked my butt off to get them all in the original fucking game. And despite this game being like a group game, it mainly plays more like Dynasty Warriors, I think. Just based on what I've seen of Samurai Warriors 4 and what I remember from 3 and 2 and what I've played from Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, it seems to me like it's using the Dynasty Warriors engine, which I think is fine because I personally prefer that engine. I feel like Samurai Warriors sometimes is a little too slow, I guess. I don't know. I haven't played 4, which is supposed to be coming out relatively soon, and I might get that on PS4 and just kind of wait to get a PS4, but I know for like Warriors Orochi 2, and I assume also Warriors Orochi 1, they used a more, I think it was still the Dynasty Warriors engine, because from what I understand, that's the more popular of the series, but it looked more like Samurai Warriors because of the older engine. And I think just to differentiate from the series, from Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors is designed like an older Dynasty Warriors game by default, at least as far as I can tell. You know, after you beat, you know, Orochi and the Hydra, because obviously you do, you get to fight freaking Susanoo, who's like a fucking Japanese god. He's like, and Neza, who's this, I didn't really like him that much because he seemed kind of overpowered, and the motion capture, it's realistic motion capture, and of course the Japanese voice acting still. Yeah, but I felt like it was just kind of cheesy. Oh, and I remember Daji's friend's name. It's Himiko, I believe. Himiko. Daji and Himiko. But I remember there's this one scene in particular where we captured Himiko, and Kai from Samurai Warriors 3, she's over there, and like she's like standing in front of her, and she's looking when she's like, go. It's like she's telling her to escape. And fucking Kaguya, who's like the spirit chick, who's sort of like the guide for this game, she's like, why'd you do that? And Kai's like, Kaguya, or Kagu-chin, that's what she calls her. Yeah, sometimes people do weird things, and it's sort of like, it's kind of that cliche motif of like, is like, humans are strange. rich. And it's just like, you know, humans are weird, but we don't really need to keep beating that fact with a fucking rake. And I'm not talking about the rake, I mean a rake that you rake leaves with. And I felt like that it got kind of cheesy at times, especially once you get to like higher levels where you can just destroy everything. Like I haven't finished this game yet, or at least not the, well, I have. I finished the original, and I've been working on the extra content brought in from Ultimate. That's been what I've been playing for like the past several weeks, and like the majority of my main team, except for Sophia, because I just got her a while ago, she's like level 50 something, or no, she's 49. She's fucking 49, and everyone else that I use is level 100. I've been using Jahodoin and Nobunaga Oda. Both of them are level 100. Shun Chuan is level 100. Yukimura Sanada was the first to go level 100 because he's a fucking beast. And Muneshige Tachibana is also at level 100. All the characters that I actually want to use, all my favorite characters, are at level 100. Except for Sophia. And so because of that, the new content is not really that hard. Like, usually with Dynasty Warriors games, I play them on easy so I can just kind of run through everything. Because for me, Dynasty Warriors, it's kind of like the Tales series in that I feel like at this point it has a pretty high amount of polish. I think I've mentioned in previous reviews of Dynasty Warriors or Warriors games is that sometimes I feel like enemies, like, you just get caught up in like this juggle, and it doesn't really seem to do too much unless you're like really low level or like on a really high difficulty, where like it just seems like the game's just like, oh, okay, you've killed too many people, we have to let you get juggled one time and get knocked down. You have to get juggled one time. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm glad I met my juggle quota. I'm glad that I was able to play your game. Thanks a lot, Dynasty Warriors. Thanks a lot, Warriors Orochi 3. Thanks a lot! But, you know, for the most part, I feel like the game is pretty polished. But lately, I've been playing it on normal. And on some missions, because I would replay missions, I play them on hard and chaos. Like, there's this one mission, which I'm pretty sure I show in the footage, or I'm going to try to, because I'm recording this commentary first. As you'll see in the selection, and probably in the one that I choose, you know, it's playing on hard or chaos. I'm probably going to go with hard, to be honest, because chaos is hard. Chaos is hard. Like, hard is not that hard, but chaos is the real hard. And it kind of makes it a little bit more fun, too, especially, you know, it's missions, and it's more like your standard Dynasty Wars and Samurai Wars missions for the most part, where you actually have certain objectives and goals, and victory conditions change, and it's more of like just an actual like level, as opposed to like the Empire's game where it's just kill the captain or take over all the bases and then kill the captain, which that's fine, yet at the same time it's also a very easy version of the game, where I feel like the difference between that though is that it shows more strategy. But with this one, it's more, this game also has strategy. Like, you're not always going to be able to win every fight by just charging in. Sometimes you'll have to kind of plan things a little bit, especially if you're playing with two people. That way you can kind of strategize a little bit. Like if Nick or AJ were playing with me, sometimes like I'll take one side and they'll take the other, and you know, that's kind of cool. The new story, from what I can tell, is like a parallel universe, and that one, it's not bad. You know, I kind of like that we're sort of getting something separate from Orochi. The first one, you know, it related sort of to her, but it was more like that Daji was trying to bring back Orochi, and it's just like, no, you need to stop that. And it was more like just a maintenance thing, which I'm gonna guess came from Hyper. Because from what I understand, Hyper did try to add in like an extra story thing. It was more or less the same game, just with some extra stuff. And from what I understand, the frame rate was actually pretty bad, which is something you don't really want in a Dynasty Warriors game. So I deliberately avoided it. It was just like, okay, well, I just won't play the updated version. Because, I don't know, maybe they'll release another one. I kind of figured they would. Or I was hoping they would, because of the inclusion of Jushu and Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires. But Um, let's see. And then there's some missions where it's like you play as the people you are rescuing or people you meet in certain levels, and that's kind of cool. Like there's one with Musashi Miyamoto, Yoshitsune Minamoto, and Jaho Duen, and it's like, oh man, we want to fight some really strong swordsmen like Lu Bu and fucking Todatsu Honda or whatever like Rhino guy's name is. But I say Rhino guy, he's like sort of like the Lu Bu of Samurai Warriors. I don't even think Samurai Warriors has a Lu Bu. They've got a Cao Cao, which is basically Nobunaga, and a Cao Pi, which is Mitsuhide, but that's a different very different subject. And so that's kind of cool. I personally don't really care. It feels more like filler to me. And lately, just some of the missions later on have just been getting kind of boring. Like, just because you're just going through and just knocking down enemies and like trying to convince your friends that they need to join you because they're being possessed by some spirit or whatever. And they're like, oh no, how can you be part of this group? How can you be friends with Daji even though we've practically captured? Oh, how can you be friends with Shuten Doji? I need to kill you. It's like, oh, I predicted you should do this, but how could you do this? I am so disappointed, even though I probably predicted this. But by a predictor man, I'm talking about Zhuge Liang, the guy who kind of looks like a Chinese Jesus, who also becomes he's the strategist of Shu. I think, no, it's either Wu or Shu, the Green People. He's the strategist of the Green People, and then he becomes like the commander for the time being until Jiang Wei takes over. But, at least until fucking Liu Bei's son, takes over. Yeah, but some of these missions are just getting, because it just seems like we're just taking down, like, all our friends, trying to kill all the remnants of Orochi's army, or whoever's in charge. Like, we're chasing this one chick with the broken mirror, and it's just like, okay, that's great. Like, with this series, with Warriors of Orochi, the main drive here for me is seeing all these characters and getting to play as them. So for me, unlocking all the characters is pretty important. And thankfully, they haven't been giving me any of the random missions like, oh, let's see what Lu Bu's like, or oh, let's go back in time and fix this one thing, or like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm getting kind of tired of playing this game, because, you know, I generally play this game while listening to something else, because this game, there's not really much to it. And I think also because I'm kind of looking forward to Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, which will be coming out soon. That's going to be awesome, getting it on PS3 for bonuses. But, yeah, overall, I'd say, like, you know, the original game's pretty good, although looking at these games, it's kind of lacking a little bit. Hyper, from what I understand, is just, from what I can tell, is just the version you just want to avoid because of the frame rate issues and the fact that it doesn't really add much more to the table. Ultimate is probably the one you should get, but if you have the others, I'd only get it if you are a really big Dynasty Warriors or Warriors fan in general, because the missions will start to get kind of boring, and if you're a really big fan, and I would consider myself a relatively big Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors and Warriors in general fan, then you'll be able to tolerate the repetition. That's generally been the biggest criticism with the Dynasty Warriors game, is that they're all pretty repetitive. Though with this kind of game style, you can't really expect anything less, I think. Of course it's going to be repetitive because it's the game type. And Warriors of Orochi 3 Ultimate does add like the card versus mode, and so that'll be something. And then also the Gauntlet mode where you have a party of 6, and that's pretty cool. And one thing I learned that you could do. I don't know if you could do it in the original, but if you press down on the D-pad, you can bring out your other party members, because you have a party members of 3 and you can switch between them. But if you press down, you can bring them all out, and that's useful for leveling up your characters, because you can just play as the one character you like that's at a really high level or max level, while your other character will get like 1 to 2 levels up. And if you're like me, where you'll be using 2 level 100s in one character that you're trying to level up, and you just spend all your growth points on that one character, the extra boost in levels is pretty useful. Not to mention, you know, like from what it seems, like if you get an experience like with everyone out, it's shared. I think that's the case. Then there's experience fever, and that can be pretty useful for leveling up people. I did that with Muneshige Tachibana, where he got like 5 to 10 levels up. It was pretty useful. But yeah, I'd say Ultimate's probably the version to get if you've never played Wars of Orochi 3, because that's the one that has the most content. Only problem is if you've played Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires or Dynasty Warriors 8, you're gonna notice some things that may seem a little outdated or seem a little strange, like Sumashur fighting with just a basic rapier style as opposed to his lightning sword that he had in 7 Empires, as well as 8. He'll probably have it in 8 Empires, and Xiahou Ba having just a regular big sword, like a Buster Sword equivalent, as opposed to his rocket lance. And Jushu is in it, but, you know, he's Jushu, so I don't know. Though there are some differences, like with Sun Quan, how he kind of plays, or at least as far as I've noticed. And, of course, it is multiplayer, and, you know, if you're looking for, like, just a general, like, party Dynasty Warriors game where everyone can play as whoever they want from whatever game, except if you're not a fan of either, because they don't have, like, every single character from every single Koei game. Like, I know the character from Trinity, who represents the Zil-Ul series, was that Nemiya guy, because from what I understand, he's a recurring character, so I can kind of see why they would throw him in over Eris, or Aris, or whatever, just because of the grounds that Nemiya is probably a more recognizable character, and I think that's fine. And of course, Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden, and that's cool. So there's at least a lot of options you can do. So I think this game is definitely worth picking up if you like Dynasty Warriors or Samurai Warriors and you haven't played one in a while. And definitely pick up Ultimate, especially if you have a PS4 or an Xbox One, because they're available. If you have a Wii U, you'll kind of have to stick with Hyper, and you probably won't have any fun, because that version, from what I've heard, is the worst version out of all of them. And I think the English version is also on the Vita, so you could take it on the go if you really wanted. And from what I understand, from what I'm going to guess, based on Dynasty Warriors Next, it's going to play more like just your standard Dynasty Warriors game, and not like the PSP ones where you went up in stages and you just fought like a row of enemies in like one stage. It's more like just your giant open arena kind of thing, which I appreciate. I really like this kind of game. I think it'd be really fun to use in like an RTS, because this game is very much like a war game. I mean, I know Kingdom Under Fire basically does this, but I mean, something like Warcraft and a mixture of this, or at least a mixture of Warcraft and Neverwinter would be cool, but that's a tangent right there. That is a tangent, friends. Overall, this game's pretty good, I'd say. I really enjoyed it, and, you know, even if right now it's kind of getting a little boring and stale, keep in mind, I've been playing this game for like several weeks, and, you know, I've been taking breaks for Exilia 2 or no, this game came out after Exilia 2. I took a break for, you know, the Dark Souls 2 DLC and the Xenoverse beta, or network test, but I'll get to that later. But, yeah, I think this game is worth picking up if you like the series, or if you just kind of want to play something different, or like if you want to get back into the Dynasty Warriors series and you want something to kind of serve as like a bridge for it, as opposed to just jumping right into the next one. This might be a good one to play, and it's definitely fun to play if you're like me, where you've got, you know, friends who like different series. Like, I'm a Dynasty Warriors kind of guy, and I know Nick likes Samurai Warriors, and I think AJ is also a Samurai Warriors kind of guy, so it's nice to kind of, that we've got sort of like this different options. So, yeah. I'm going to keep playing this game, and I'll probably cry a little bit on the inside, but that's okay. You don't need to know about that, or well, I just told you. But, yeah, this is Flames Are on Nikki, YouTube Tasuke signing out. See you later.